receive this St. Andrew's and be among us and stores of learning possible.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good afternoon, Chairman Raju, Bishop Sage, trustees, faculty, administrators, students, parents, alumni, and honored guests. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the beginning of St. Andrew's 71st school year. It is with a profound sense of gratitude that I stand before you, indebted for the overwhelming welcome you have bestowed upon Jennifer, our children, and me. Over the course of our transition to St. Andrew's these past 10 months, I have had many opportunities to glimpse the remarkable culture you have created here in this community of saints, enabling this school to stand as a beacon for good and a brighter future for all. You have engaged me in countless conversations, given me numerous books to read on Mississippi, its history, and its culture, and pointed me in many directions as I began my travels across the state to towns such as Pelahatchie, Florence, Yazoo City, Clarksdale, Greenville, Oxford, and Starkville. My effort and quest to understand and appreciate, embrace all that is this school and this state will never end. But you have accelerated my learning in unimaginable ways. Along the way, I have thought much about this school that since 1947 has evolved into a remarkable school of 2 campuses with 1,150 students. Beginning with the visionary leadership of Adele Franks, and continuing on through the very successful tenure of Dr. Penick these past 10 years. This school would not have reached this point in its history without the collective wisdom, guidance, and support of so many who believed in what it could and will become. So today, we take the next step in that journey, grounded in our Episcopal heritage, secure in the notion that all God's children are welcome here, supported by values expressed through our honor code, and steadfast in our resolve that a St. Andrew's education will enable our graduates to lead lives of purpose and service no matter where life's journey might lead them. As we move forward, I wonder how we will measure our success. How will we know that St. Andrew's is fulfilling its mission? We might turn our attention to grade point averages, college matriculation lists, standardized test scores, state championships. We might mark the progress of our Forward Saints campaign, the physical manifestations of which are emerging before our eyes. But I would submit to you that if these are the only measures of our success, we will have failed to fully grasp the true value of a St. Andrew's education. Some of this is understandable. Other schools will mark their progress in the same way. But in today's soundbite, nanosecond, consumer-driven world, there has to be more. Where then do we look for other less quantifiable, but perhaps culturally much more significant measures of our success? We see them in the tears that trickle down a mother's face as Father Kirk imparts a few last words of wisdom to our recent graduates the day following their graduation on the shores of Lake Sherwood Wise, leaving that mother to know that her work will never end, but it is time for her child to venture forth into the world. We see them in the faces of our pre-K-4 students in Meredith Kochitsky's class as they engage in a remarkable exercise known as hugs, high fives, or handshakes. Some doing so with great enthusiasm and others an equally great sense of trepidation. This is an exercise that would touch any visitor's heart. We sense them in the peace and tranquility that exists within Donna Patrick as she arrives to work each morning. Often as the sun rises, its morning light reflected off the cross, leaving her to know that she is home. We see them in the jubilant celebrations following our 6 state championship athletic victories last year, reminding those students and athletes that the months of time, effort, and dedication that they put forth had resulted in a great achievement. We see them in our 4th grade students and their teachers and the time they put in preparation for the May Day celebration, a Saints tradition unlike any other. This is no beauty pageant, but an exercise in teamwork and dedication that they will long remember. We see them in the performances of our speech and debate team last spring at the national championships, their performances leaving little doubt that they are developing skills which will serve them well in the years ahead. We see them in our student body vice president, Charlie Blunt, who spotted me, a mere stranger with the exception of a brief email exchange and perhaps a digital image, standing alone in Starbucks last May. Despite this gap between us, he had the confidence, poise, and maturity to introduce himself and share his St. Andrew's story with me, all the while distracting himself from far more important endeavors like his AP exams and his upcoming state championship baseball game. All around us, these measures exist, and these are but a few to which you have introduced me over the course of the past 10 months, leaving me to wonder, what more will we see in the year ahead? Let there be no doubt, as we move forward, our academic programs will remain our primary focus as they have been since the school's founding. In doing so, we will both honor tradition and simultaneously innovate in ways that are supported by our mission. We will also turn our gaze to an ever-growing body of science that has shown without doubt that those adults who lead the most successful and fulfilling lives do so because they display a wide range of non-cognitive skills such as effort, resilience, determination, teamwork, compassion. We will do all of this in a collaborative spirit, firm in our resolve that the sense of diversity which exists and will continue to grow on this campus makes our community stronger. All the while, we will never lose sight of the fact that the single most important variable in any educational equation is the relationship between teacher and student, artist and pupil, conductor and musician, coach and athlete, director and actress. Symbiotic in nature, when these relationships are successful, they result not only in unimaginable growth on the part of the student, but an equally profound sense of professional satisfaction on the part of the adult. The tools at our disposal to support these relationships are greater today than they ever have been at any time in the past. For better or for worse for our students, our understanding of the teenage brain has grown exponentially in the past 50 years. Technology, when applied appropriately, can open unimaginable pathways to learning. And last but not least, the physical structures to support the entire learning process have been, are, and will be a big part of our future together. I'm left to wonder what role I might play in this endeavor, in this adventure in learning. Part communicator, part strategist, part cheerleader, and yes, part decision maker. My primary focus will be the implementation of institutional priorities established by the Board of Trustees. And if I'm very lucky, I might play some small role in supporting the growth of our students and our teachers as we move forward, each of them finding their own measures of success and developing everlasting relationships. To illustrate my point, I'd like to share with you the story of a young woman named Anne-Marie. Hers is a story which I think you, our students, will be able to relate. In a few short weeks, Anne-Marie will begin her freshman year at one of the most selective universities in America, to which she has also earned a scholarship to play Division I women's lacrosse. These are achievements about which any parent or student would be justifiably proud. But for Anne-Marie, the journey has not always been easy. Our family first came to know Anne-Marie 5 years ago, as she provided care for our children in their younger years, while Jennifer and I navigated the world of parenting, simultaneously holding down 2 full-time careers that at times had us traveling across the country and around the globe. Anne-Marie also served as a student tour guide in my office, sharing her story with prospective families as they visited the campus. Despite the many opportunities to interact with Anne-Marie, I would hardly say we were close, for I never had the opportunity to serve as her teacher or coach. One thing that was clear about Anne-Marie from the earliest days of our relationship was that she often seemed hurried and stressed in all of her affairs. It did not take long to realize that this sense of stress came from many sources. Always a capable student, she worked hard to keep up. But in a community where achievement was valued above all else, the ladder of success was very crowded, and the top rungs were often occupied by students and adults with the sharpest elbows. Identified at a young age as a young woman with the potential to become one of the most talented lacrosse players in the country, she tried to navigate her commitment to her school teams with an endless array of summer travel programs, tryouts, and showcases for college recruiters. And last but not least, Anne-Marie, like all of you here today, was bombarded on a constant basis with digital images and stories of materialistic wealth and physical perfection that are not real and exist only in the minds and the eyes of a Madison Avenue marketing executive from New York City. One day late in her freshman year, all of this pressure became too much, as Anne-Marie's world almost came crashing down as a result of an academic indiscretion that could cause her place in the school. As I wandered home that afternoon, not long after learning about what had transpired, I thought of Anne-Marie and the difficult conversations taking place in her home as she awaited the outcome of the school's disciplinary process. Early the next morning, not long after returning to work, Anne-Marie appeared at my door. Tears ever present and swollen eyes, making it clear there had not been much sleep the night before. For the next 90 minutes or so, we talked about what had transpired, and in the course of doing so, probably caused her to miss a class or two, which at that point seemed far too insignificant. At one point in our conversation, curiosity got the best of me, and I asked Anne-Marie why she had come to me. Why had she chosen to share her story with me given all of the many relationships she had that were much closer than that which we enjoyed. Because, she said, you and Mrs. Sheppard are the only adults who don't judge me or expect me to be perfect. It was at that moment I realized Anne-Marie's journey was not one of personal fulfillment with her own measures of success, but instead was a journey driven by her perception of others' expectations. Not quite sure how to respond, I told Anne-Marie that her teachers loved her, and all they expected from her was to be the very best she could be. I'll never know the degree to which our conversation helped Anne-Marie turn a corner. But over the course of the next 3 years, her confidence spiraled upward. She seemed to take great joy and have solid focus in all of her endeavors. When I saw her about campus, there was a light around her that was never present before. And on graduation day, she seemed to float across the stage as the headmaster handed her her diploma. In a brief exchange afterwards, in a sea of thousands of well-wishers, I told Anne-Marie I was proud of her and asked her if she was happy. Yes, she said, because I realized that is what really matters. So as we begin this school year, I say to you, our students, you are our primary focus. We will surround you each and every day with opportunities to find your own measures of success. Your sole responsibility is to take full advantage of all that you have before you. But in asking you to do that, I realize society has complicated your lives in ways that would have been unimaginable when I was a teenager many years ago. So if it ever all becomes too much to bear, if it becomes too complicated, know that my door is always open for you. And as you go about your daily lives, I might also suggest that you can make things seem much less complicated by keeping in mind one simple phrase that I may repeat to you from time to time this year, and upon which you might reflect. Make your school proud. Make your parents proud. Make yourself proud. In suggesting this simple benchmark to you, I realize that others who live outside of our Saints community have already acknowledged this quality within you. Following last December's state championship boys basketball game, the Clarion Ledger wrote, "When the buzzer sounded and the Saints were finally champs, the team rushed together at half court. But assistant coach Jamario Rugli collapsed to his knees and held his head in his hands. Tears flew down his face. His father taught him competitiveness and character, and Rugli said Gus was watching over this St. Andrews team the whole season. He thanked his players for ending the challenging year with a title. Rugli said, they did it for themselves. They did it for St. Andrews. And they said they were going to do it for my dad, and they did. Make your school proud. Make your parents proud. Make yourself proud. If you believe that each one of your decisions and actions can be measured in the affirmative against this benchmark, you will have given us our greatest measure of our success. Thank you very much.